We have been listening to officials in Buffalo, New York, discuss a mass shooting at Tops Supermarket. We learned several new details from this press conference. At least 10 people were killed, both inside the store and in the parking lot. Among them, a retired police officer who was working as a security guard. The 18-year-old male suspect is in police custody, and it is being investigated as a hate crime. Mayor Byron Brown said that the shooter traveled several hours from outside of the Buffalo community to perpetrate this attack. The mayor also said that there is, quote, no comfort at this time. I want to bring back in CBS News security and law enforcement analyst James Gagliano, who joins us via phone. James, what is the biggest questions that still remain unanswered to you following that press conference?
Yeah, I just like you, I watched the complete press conference, and just some sobering details came out, a lot of things that we can unpack. And I don't normally share this on air at CBS, but I am an upstate New York mayor, an elected mayor, and it's not part of my gig at CBS. I don't normally talk about it, but listening to the mayor of Buffalo, the pain, talking about how much this was personal to the community, it really, really gripped me, and understanding what he's going through as he has to attempt to unite the community, obviously allow law enforcement the bandwidth to get to the bottom of this. And I know we're not reporting yet completely on all the details of this manifesto, but through channels, I've seen parts of what we believe to be that manifesto, and it is a hateful screed. So he's got his hands full. Now, shifting gears and moving back to your question, which was the law enforcement piece of this. Yes, law enforcement has a heavy burden going forward. Now, first and foremost, the number one thing is, thankfully, it does not appear to be part of a broader conspiracy. Now, if anyone provided this 18-year-old miscreant, and that's what this individual is, if anyone provided him any type of material support, inspiration, communicated with him, knew about this prior to this heinous act taking place, that is going to be law enforcement's major focus. Everything else now, we can put it on pause, we can tap the brakes, we can take a deep breath, make sure that we've got the evidence that we need, whether it's at the crime scene itself, at the grocery store, or whether or not it's social media, digital exhaust. That's what law enforcement is going to be focused on right now.
Yeah, we definitely heard that pain resonating with the people in the audience there. Jimmy, were you surprised when law enforcement said that the suspect did not appear to be on the radar of law enforcement officials before now?
No, this is the toughest piece of this. And here's what our viewers are going to be asking. Why did we not know about this individual beforehand? And was he on the FBI's radar? Was he on law enforcement radar? And here's the problem. You know, we live in a country where we cherish our civil liberties. We want to be able to have the First Amendment protections. We obviously understand that sometimes people say things in the heat of the moment. Sometimes they say things that are hyperbolic or are satire-laden. Those are all okay. But when does it move into the realm where you should be on the radar of law enforcement, and when should law enforcement interdict you? And that's the problem. People can say hateful things. People can say racist things. And unfortunately, there's no law against that, so we can't arrest people for that. And we certainly can't put an FBI agent and a cop, sitting on the street corner wherever this person lives. Now, in 1990, the U.S. Congress passed laws that made hate crimes a crime. And what does that mean? Well, a hate crime is something where somebody is doing something targeting a particular race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, ethnicity, a whole host of things. And why is that different? Because people often ask me, why do we treat those crimes differently than we just do a straight murder or a straight assault? Because of the paralyzing effect it has on the community. When people in the community know that they are being targeted because of who they are, it's not random, but because of who they are, that has a sobering effect on things, and that's why we investigate these things differently. Now, the DA spoke, and he said this person is presumably going to be charged at the state level with first-degree murder. I'm certain the feds are going to come in. They're probably going to slap a number of hate crime violations. federal violations, maybe even, and I don't want to say I've heard this, but maybe even a terrorism charge here. Because, again, the definition of terrorism is violence or intimidation, in pursuit of political or some type of social goals. And this person obviously had some issues going on, but obviously was looking to spread fear. And to me, from my perspective, this looks like a hate crime.
Yeah, we heard the Erie District Attorney, John Flynn, also say that they would not release the name of the suspect at this time because they, quote, don't want to give him celebrity. It seems that he was, in fact, motivated by this racial animus, by hate. Talk to us, Jimmy, about this.
So we do know from the press conference that this individual attempted to live stream what they were doing. And this is a macabre, completely bizarre thing that sometimes people that are predisposed to violence or trying to make a splash and want to avail themselves of all the tools that we have at our avail in the 21st century, the ability to stream things live on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or things like that. So, yes, that will be used as obviously part of the case against this individual. The sad part about this is obviously there are, a number of souls who were taken from us here. I think there were 13 total that were injured, wounded, I think 10 deceased. But yes, law enforcement will use that. This will become part of the case against this individual who apparently gave himself up. I mean, he's a coward. Whether he took his life or whether he committed suicide by cop or whether he surrendered, this person was a total coward. And I trust that in Buffalo, they're going to bring the full force of the law against him and let the chips fall where they may. But I think this individual is going to go to jail for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, we heard that they said nothing, including the death penalty, is being taken off of the table at this time. James Gagliano, thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.